Jane Austen.
Kia ora and welcome to this episode of the Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author, Austenite life coach. With me is the fantastic beatboxer Rachel Pilwell, also book buyer, Austenite, and all-round nerd.
Hi.
Today we're discussing chapter 39 of Emma, which is chapter 3 of volume 3. It's just after the ball. Emma's having a good time thinking about how well things went. Then Harriet and Frank turn up and dramatics. Harriet has been attacked. She's been mugged. Not really though. There are some travellers, which in the book are referred to by a name that we no longer use because it's racist. Emma decides that obviously Harriet is now going to be with Frank because he rescued her.
Because he rescued her, and honestly, isn't that all true love needs, to rescue someone else? The whole damsel in distress trope.
So the chapter opens. Emma's wandering the grounds. It's giving her considerable pleasure to think of the agreeable recollection of the ball, particularly gratifying, peculiarly. I can't say that word. We'll go with particularly gratifying.
Peculiarly gratifying.
Is that she and Mr. Knightley are on the same page, not only about the Eltons, but that he likes Harriet now. Not likes, because this will come back and bite her in the ass. But it's the highest satisfaction that the Eltons look like they were going to ruin it. He saved everything, and now he's like, yeah, the Eltons suck, and also you did a better choice with Harriet than Mrs. Elton.
Is it really him liking Harriet, or just she's the lesser of two evils?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah.
She's so happy that things are going to go well. Harriet will be rational. Frank Churchill's not going to be too much in love with her because he's not visiting this morning on his way home, so he's not too much in love. Yeah. And Mr. Knightley's not quarrelling with her. It's going to be a great summer.
I'm actually wondering if she is happy that Mr. Knightley's not quarrelling with her, because we know by this point that's just foreplay for them. That's how they flirt. He agreed with me, but now we have nothing to fight over.
Yeah, I think she'll be happy for a little, and then she'll need to find something else to bug him with. So that
she's satisfied for a day, and then she's like, nah, I'm bored.
This walk in the garden has given her spirits to be able to go back to the house and look after her two nephews and her father. You forget that Emma has to do this. She has to look after people. Her time is not her own. She's got a walk around the grounds to get her daily exercise and sort out her thoughts, and she's like, okay, now I can deal with the demands of the day and the demands of the people.
The demands of 3 children.
You're not wrong. Big dramatics. The great iron sweep gate opened. And this is the first time the gate's been mentioned, and then it's mentioned again in another couple of chapters, but this is so cinematic. Yeah. 2 persons entered. Harriet's just about falling over, and Frank is holding her up. As soon as they get into the house, Harriet faints on a chair.
Dang. She's had an ordeal. I mean, I've never fainted for anything, but I assumed that potentially being mugged would maybe cause that.
And a young lady who faints must be recovered. The most obvious thing to say, so I feel like Austen's making a joke about this.
Just on fainting. It's a trope often in books of this era of like women swooning and women fainting, and it's like actually nowadays we don't talk about women doing that at all. Like, people in general can faint for anything, but it's not like women faint all the time. I wonder if Austen was also aware of this trope in writing and is just kind of like, she fainted, oh my god. It happens all the time, but it doesn't. And she's just commenting on that.
Probably is. Because Harriet appears like a romantic heroine in this chapter. And then a little bit more in the next chapter as well. I can never be with him.
I'll never find love.
I shall never marry. People don't faint as much these days.
It's because we're not wearing corsets.
So corsets are actually really comfy, but they do restrict some things. So yes, it might be that you're not able to breathe as much, or you take a sharp breath to such a point that then the corset goes, nope. The word that sticks in my head, or the sentence that sticks in my head about this, is I think actually from Persuasion when they're talking about Dick Musgrove. The pathetic history. Because the pathetic history is that Harriet was going for a walk with Miss Bickerton, who's never been discussed before.
Yeah, she's not been mentioned once.
Never mentioned again. Although that is one of the great things about Austen, that there is this full world out there, and she'll just drop someone and be like, they've been here the whole time. You just don't see everybody.
Yeah, they're just not relevant to Emma's story. Like, how many people are actually like, is she around? But because of their class, they're just not on Emma's radar. Like, most of this book happens in Emma's mind. Does she even notice or like spare a thought for any of these other people who she's walking past or her acquaintances.
Harriet brings up when she's talking about Robert Martin, she says, he knows you by sight perfectly well. And Emma's like, I wouldn't have noticed him. There's no reason for me to.
He could have walked past her on the street and she wouldn't have known that it was him. And she probably wouldn't have even really known of his existence until she met Harriet.
Mr. Knightley might have mentioned him, but Emma wouldn't have clocked it.
He would have just been another name of Mr. Knightley's, like...
One of the tenants.
One of the tenants, yeah, exactly.
One of the many tenants. Austen doesn't tend to mention servants often because the readers of the time would know that they're always there. Frank Churchill, when he runs into Harriet, is walking to meet his horses. He left his horses to meet him by another road. He sent out his servant, presumably, with the horses to wait for him, and then he'll meet his servant and carry on, which is probably a ploy so he can go and see the Bates and not have his servant there waiting outside. Yeah. And then there's no suspicious stuff to carry back to the aunt and uncle.
People aren't like, oh, why was your servant with the horses outside the Bates house? He was down by the pub. Oh, that's where I was. Don't worry about it. Complete camouflage.
The people that we would call Romany or travellers were previously called something else, which has only really recently people have realised as a slur. I'm pretty sure the people that were being called it were like, no, that's a slur, don't call us that.
Yeah, because it wasn't their term. That's always been used by other people to describe Romanese. I feel like it was after the show My Big Fat Gypsy Wedding, the TV show. I think it was after that actually I think the discussion got a lot bigger because obviously the show was playing on so many different channels and stuff and it was about like their lifestyle, but I think that the people in it very rarely use that word. And I think that's when the discussion got bigger and people kind of started moving away from that term.
This is a thing that happens when a community is more visible. People are better at understanding what their needs are and being more sensitive to slurs.
That word was used in Austen's time and is up until recently it was still used. Like that term hasn't changed. I don't really know much about the origin of the term.
So it was first recorded in the 1500s as a variation of Egyptian, from the mistaken belief that these peoples came from Egypt,
which is not accurate at all.
There are travellers in different cultures. Like I understand that the ones on the TV show were Irish travellers.
Yeah.
But various cultures, various countries have their own travellers and they've all sort of fallen under previously this slur term. When someone says, I've been gypped, that's where that comes from. It's implying that travellers will trick you.
That they've probably pickpocketed you or stolen from you.
So you see this in the way that Harriet and Miss Bickerton react to running across the travellers. They're kind of ridiculous.
I mean, you could say that about Harriet in many instances, but in this section especially.
Miss Bickerton screams and runs up a steep bank, jumps over a hedge, and runs away because a child is walking towards them. Harriet has cramp from dancing but is terrified and unable to move.
Hey girls, it's a child. Just kick it over and run.
And the text even says they're impertinent in look, though not absolutely in word. They haven't done anything. But she gives them money, promises them money, wants them to not to ask for any more. And it says her terror and her purse were too tempting. I hate to victim blame. Sounds a little like Austen is saying, these were just people. If Harriet and Miss Bickerton had behaved sensibly, they would not have ended up in this situation.
Especially with Miss Bickerton having, like, run away, leaving Harriet on her own, a much more vulnerable target for anyone. Any highwayman would obviously choose a singular person compared to two women. It's a lot harder to convince two people than it is to convince one person. And Harriet's kind, so, you know, she gives them money. You don't need to be afraid if you just said, she actually isn't wealthy. It's not like if they'd come across Emma who has so much money. If they had begged to her, it would be like such a small fraction for her. But for Harriet, it's actually like, she doesn't have a lot. Just tell these people, be like, hey, really sorry, but I actually, like, can't spare anything. And then if they kept pleading, be like, okay, well, here's this one coin. It's all I can really spare.
One woman and a bunch of kids, including a great boy. I feel like Emma would have handled this really differently.
Yeah.
She would have just walked past without engaging, or she would have turned and walked away. She might.
Would Emma have noticed them at all?
I've actually read like a retelling of Emma where I'm not sure if it's Emma or Jane Fairfax, but they visit the encampment to get their fortune told.
Sounds like something Jane would do. I don't think Emma would go for that. Learn more about her and Frank's future.
It's implied in that book that the travellers go a regular route each year, which I understand was kind of how things went. So they'd always stay in the same sort of place, but potentially there was enclosure of common land, so there weren't the same places for them anymore. So Frank saves her. He had borrowed some scissors from Miss Bates and forgotten to give them back.
Oh no, what a surprise.
And how terrible, he was stuck at the Bates much longer than he intended. So he just happily comes along and brings Harriet to Hartfield. He thought of no other place, because I bet it's actually the closest.
It's somewhere that Harriet could feel safe, because she knows Hartfield and Emma is a close friend of hers. It's close, but it's also just somewhere that she's used to.
In like 2 chapters, he says, "You look tired, you must be glad to be home," to Harriet as they're walking into Hartfield. He then has to run off because he's late to get home to his aunt and uncle. And Emma's like, "Great, don't worry, I will send servants with messages to Mrs. Goddard because she'll be freaking out at this point because Miss Bickerton's just turned up by herself. And a note to Mr. Knightley because he's in charge of the area to make sure that everything's fine." Everyone freaks out about the travellers, and the funniest thing you discover at the end of the chapter is that basically they moved away immediately. So they went, "Someone's had a panic. We need to go or we're going to get in trouble." And the young ladies of Highbury were in safety before their panic even began.
You know, I feel like in this time frame, that seems to be the case a lot of the time, where it talks about women being hysterical. And anyone listening, there were big air quotes with my fingers when saying that. If someone is overreacting in these situations, it's almost always like they're actually not in any danger. They just think they are. Even now, there's so much misinformation. So much misinformation, because it's so much easier to get misinformation now. But I feel like even back then, there was so much misinformation because you could not fact check. You can't go online and check your facts and find out what other people's experiences have been. It's just like they would have been told stories of like, oh, don't trust travellers, and it just becomes this big, like, boogeyman in your mind of, oh, this. But actually, you're fine. They're just people, guys.
They're just people, and they're probably people that travelled with the seasons and would go places they were needed for seasonal work. Therefore, very useful. Not that people need to be useful to be valuable.
I mean, in New Zealand alone, the wine industry relies on travellers, people from other countries, to come and pick the grapes. Like, you'll find that all over the world, anywhere that does that, or fruit picking or things like that, because it is actually really hard, laborious work, and you're out there in the sun for ages.
It is a little bit of using people who need the work to not pay them much and make them do a lot of work.
It sucks. I mean, that's not to say every place does that, especially nowadays, but yeah, it is kind of more used as cheap labour. It is a place that travellers who are just looking for quick work can easily find works, but it makes sense for them to be seasonal travellers and to go around the place because that's when the work is available.
Emma goes off into flights of fancy. A fine young man and a lovely young woman thrown together in such a way could hardly fail of suggesting certain ideas to the coldest heart and the steadiest brain. And she is on fire with speculation and foresight. They're both in a favourable state of mind. Frank's getting over her. Harriet's getting over Mr. Elton.
Rebound.
He'd spoken of her terror and naivety. As she seized and clung to his arm, he was amused and delighted.
It's not been complimentary to Frank's character to say that I've saved this woman. I'm so happy that she was in distress so I could save her.
Maybe Frank wants to be a hero, and that's part of his reason for marrying Jane, because he's saving her from having to be a governess.
If anyone in the story had a hero complex, I actually think it would more likely be Mr. Elton. But I think it would be Frank as well, like the two of them. Mr. Elton's too narcissistic, I think. He likes to think he would be a hero, but he's not actually. But Frank would do the things to be a hero, but he does like the fact that he would be seen that way. And you know that if Mr. Knightley had come across Harriet, he would be like, I'm not saving you because there was nothing you needed to be saved from.
I think he'd still save her, just be like, everything's actually fine. Everything's fine. Are you guys good? To the travellers? You're good? Great. Okay, we'll go on our way.
They're already like, oh, we're going to need to move on. I feel like he'd be like, okay, well, can I help you, like, with anything before you go? Like, do you want to take a basket of fruit with you or something? Like,
I have a field that's unused if you'd like to go there instead. Emma kind of tells herself that she's learnt better, and instead of actually pushing the two of them together, she's not going to stir a step or drop a hint. It'll be a passive scheme, so she'll just watch as they get together.
Yeah, no manipulation this time.
No.
It's going to totally happen exactly how she wants it without her having to do anything.
Emma doesn't want her dad to know because, of course, he's going to have a panic. But because it's such an exciting thing, everyone's going to talk about it. It's the kind of event to engage those who talk the most, the young and the low, all the youth and all the servants in the place, was soon in the happiness of frightful news. Which means that Emma has to promise her father she will never go beyond the shrubbery again. So she's going to stay inside the house, inside the grounds, just like he does.
It's the only way she'll truly be safe.
He loves to be inquired after, which is the funniest thing ever, because then he's like, no, we're very indifferent. This poor man, I'm always healthy. He has nothing to worry about.
He loves to worry, and if Emma's okay, what is there to worry about?
It ends basically in her just telling the story to the boys, and they're very excited about it.
They've got to get their entertainment somehow, and
not a lot happens.
And so, yeah, this is probably one of the most exciting things to happen, in Highbury for a long time.
Do you think that this scene was necessary, that it needed to be travellers, that it could have been something else?
Its only purpose as a plot device is to try and shoehorn Frank and Harriet together, in Emma's mind. In Austen's time, it was probably actually just the easiest route to take. If Austen wanted her characters to kind of get, accosted on the road, but didn't want anything like truly bad to happen to them, I guess like using the travellers as the villains in the scene would like make sense, because if she had done it with highwaymen who have been uproariously romanticized, it's unlikely that Harriet would have come out of that situation alive.
Harriet would have fallen in love with a highwayman. That's why she couldn't use a highwayman.
Harriet would. She'd be like, wow, he's such a bad boy. He would be like, I can't rob her because she's so beautiful. Maybe Austen herself is making a commentary on the fact that, like, she says, like, it's a child who goes up. The way she describes Miss Bickerton fleeing, like, it's a very slapstick scene. Actually, maybe Austen is commenting that it's all a bit ridiculous the way the travellers are treated. She's still very much fitting within the narrative of them in this time. But, I think actually maybe she sees that it's, like, that's not who they could be, and is commenting on that as well.
There's, I think, a fear of the unknown, people you don't know. Yes, to a certain extent, it's sensible to be a little reserved around people you don't know, but this is potentially taking it too far.
Even nowadays, a lot of times overseas, a lot of people, unfortunately, will use children as the first part of a scam. They'll get the child to distract you while you're pickpocketed or something like that, and that happens now. I wouldn't expect it to happen somewhere in the country, like in Highbury, but especially in, like, cities. It's like there's so many different scams and ways that people will try and distract you in order to get something from you. There can be very well reason to be cautious and wary.
Cautious and wary is different to screaming and running away, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who wants to read a story where someone like gets approached by a stranger who could potentially mean you harm and just be like, thanks but no thanks, I'm just going to keep walking. It's not much of a story in that, an exciting moment in a story to do that, compared to screaming and running away, needing to be rescued.
Instead of us witnessing it, we get told about it, so it doesn't have the same kind of impact, like we don't view it with quite the same amount of importance. And perhaps the ridiculousness of the situation isn't quite as evident. Some authors could have based the whole book around this vital incident, but it happens in one chapter and then we don't talk about it.
And then we move on. How reliable of a narrator is Harriet? She's telling Emma this story, but she could be embellishing Miss Bickerton's reaction as well. I mean, she definitely left Harriet alone. It was still an overreaction regardless. But, maybe she just, panicked and ran. Fight or flight response. Oh, go get someone else to help. And little runs away. Knows Harriet can't run away. Just runs herself. I feel like, especially at this time, where there is so little to entertain themselves, that they would embellish any story that they could to make it seem more exciting. There's no TV going, how do they live?
And that's our discussion of Chapter 39 of Emma by Jane Austen. I've been Frances Duncan, and this has been Rachel Pilwer.
Bye!
Thank you for listening, and we wish you happy reading.